So Mufti is recognized in the States, so we give a big bio, but just in brief, Mufti is Imam in California. He's visiting us from California. His background, he has a degree in finance from Berkeley, and he went on to study in South Africa, in Azad. And he's leading many initiatives in the field of finance, mashallah, as well as in the halal meat and those initiatives as well. So today, as like Mufti Abdullah just said, the topic is about finance, investing, stocks, crypto, and 401ks and those topics. So Mufti Saab is going to give a rundown on what the exact agenda is and how we're going to run today's program. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Mufti Saab.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah bil alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Muhammad nabiyil kareem wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. The topic for today is a very fascinating and a very popular topic. By the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we had a 2.5 hour session on this topic last night with many of the Muslim youth of the DMW or DMV area. So today we will do a shorter version, and inshallah our objectives today are to provide an introduction to Islamic investing. We will discuss the importance of having the correct Islamic knowledge regarding business transactions and investing. We will also discuss the importance of investing as Muslims, saving money for a rainy day in light of the hadith of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. Then in the introduction, we also discuss the proper strategy and precautions before a person puts their money in something. Inshallah, thereafter we will go into investing itself. We will briefly discuss the Islamic rulings regarding stocks, purchasing stock shares. We will briefly discuss cryptocurrency, inshallah. And inshallah, we will briefly discuss NFTs. Inshallah, then we'll open up to Q&A, inshallah. So that's the goal, inshallah. So inshallah, we have a jam-packed day, inshallah. And inshallah, without further ado, inshallah, we'll begin the introduction. So inshallah, if you have any questions, inshallah, you can save your questions, you can forward your questions, and inshallah, we will leave time at the end as well. So, first of all, as a reminder to all of us, why is the correct Islamic knowledge regarding investing, cryptocurrency, NFTs, metaverse, 401ks, etc. Why is it so important? Yeah, so we as Muslims, we know that we have clear guidelines to follow. Right? And for us, right, we cannot engage in any transaction or we cannot involve ourselves in something without the proper knowledge. So, we need to obtain the proper knowledge first before going forward. And there is a clear instruction from Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab, the great Khalifa. Unfortunately, the tendency I've seen among the Muslim community, we jump first and we ask questions later. So generally what happens, Muslims see a new trend, we put in money already, We're involved 3 or 4 years down the line, then light bulb goes off, person has an epiphany, and they go, Sheikh, I have $1 million in cryptocurrency. And now I need to know the fatwa, is it halal or haram? But friends, the correct procedure is, before we get involved, we learn the proper rules. What is permissible, what is not permissible, right? We have some guidelines so that we know how to proceed properly. Right? Otherwise, without the proper knowledge, right, you are, as we refer to, haqib al-layl. Right? You are like a person that's looking for a stick at night, who's looking for firewood, and that can't tell the difference between firewood or a snake. It's dark at night, you need wood for your fire, you're looking around, you can't see anything. Is there a piece of wood in your hand or is there a snake? You don't know. Haqib al-layl. And many other examples and parables can also be given. So respected friends, that's why equipping ourselves with the correct knowledge is so important. And in the golden age of Islam, every single person that was involved in business, they first had to have the basic Islamic literacy. They first had to have basic Islamic knowledge. This was a rule. This was a law set down by Umar ibn Khattab. لا يبيع في سوقنا إلا من قد تفقه. Umar ibn Khattab, he laid down this law in the city of Medina al-Munawwarah. Today we also know, from a technical point of view, a person cannot just open a store just like that. They can't open up just a tent and start selling things, especially with the technical laws of this country. You need to have a permit, you need to fill out paperwork, you need to get a license, you need to get a physical presence, etc., etc. Yes, if you want to obey the laws. There's procedures in place, there's protocol in place. Yet in the golden age of Islam, the main prerequisite for doing business was the correct knowledge of religion. Knowing the proper laws. Knowing the laws of buying and selling. Respected friends, why is it so important? Because often two transactions will look exactly the same. And only a person who has the understanding of Islamic law, someone who studied jurisprudence, only that person can tell the difference. To the average person, they'll look exactly the same. And in fact, I just spent the last hour in Chantilly trying to explain the difference between two transactions to the Muslim community. It took me 1 hour. Right? They were convinced this is exactly the same. I said, no, it's not exactly the same. One is halal, one is haram. No, brother, it's exactly the same. I said, no, brother, there's a difference. So this is the issue, respected friends. What we refer to as nuances. What we refer to as finer differences. And not everyone can tell the difference. Two transactions might look exactly the same. One is interest-based, one is unlawful. The other is a lawful transaction, buying and selling, it's permissible. And the average, the person who has insight, the person who is equipped with Islamic knowledge, they can tell the difference. So this should be an Islamic practice that we need to review. MashaAllah, we have a lot of interest, as can be seen by last night. There's tremendous interest among the Muslim community right now in investing. In fact, the market is low, and if you want to jump on the bandwagon, this is the ideal time to jump on. Prices are low, the market is down. So the interest is there, but now we need to do the hard work first. Start taking classes, attending webinars, educate yourself, and learn the Islamic guidelines for all these issues. Stock market, cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, 401ks, metaverse, etc., etc. So the goal is that if we have that proper knowledge, then inshallah our money stays halal as well. That we avoid haram and we avoid situations where our money right, is coming from unlawful sources. And all the issues that will also follow. So that's the objective. And also the challenge is going to be that we will need to make that connection between the classical books, the classical laws, and apply them to the modern context as well, which is the responsibility of the scholars. So, hypothetical question here. Does anyone know if the scholars of fiqh in the last 1400 years have discussed metaverse? Does anyone know if the classical scholars of fiqh, Imam Abu Hanifa, did he discuss Bitcoin, you guys? No, it didn't exist. But arguably, Imam Abu Hanifa, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, right, they laid the principles there. Right? They laid the general principles, the laws that will help us understand Bitcoin. And that's the beauty of fiqh, Islamic law. So that's the first point I want to emphasize, why we need to have more programs like this. And to be fair, I cannot cover every single stock in today's program. Just as a disclaimer. Do not expect me to give you an answer for which stock is halal or which stock is haram for the 6,000 stocks in the US stock market. Likewise, for the 1,500 cryptocurrencies, right? I don't know the answer for every single cryptocurrency out there. Research still needs to be done. And inshallah, there's further studies as well. This is an informal lecture. This is not a formal class for you. So really going back to the basics. What is riba? What is buying and selling? What are the requirements for a valid transactions? What we refer to as fiqh al-buyu or fiqh al-mu'amalat. And to be fair, I think to some extent, every single one of us is somehow involved in business. We're either working for a company, we have our own company, we hope to build our own company, etc. etc. Right? So, the general laws of buying and selling, right? They form the foundation and they form the framework to help us. And once you have the framework and foundation down, it's much easier to discuss the advanced issues. It's much easier to discuss cryptocurrency when you understand the concept of wealth in Islam. What is mal? What are the requirements for mal, etc. So inshallah, the goal would be having part-time classes or having intensive classes on fiqh al-mu'amalat, the laws of buying and selling. Buying a few good books, starting some research, and inshallah educating ourselves. So that is point number one. The second point has to do with investing as a whole. What does the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ advise us with regards to this concept of investing? Right? Saving money for a rainy day or gathering money for the future. So there is a hadith of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ where he's reported as said, وَأَن تَذَرُوا عَالَةً أَغْنِيَاءَ خَيْرٌ مِنْ أَن تَذَرَهُمْ فُقَرَاءَ عَالَةً تَكَفُّفُ النَّاسِ أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. This is a narration in Sahih Bukhari. So as many of us are the head of the households, mashallah, we have, I'm assuming a good percentage of us are married, mashallah, we have children, we have dependents, we have families. All of us have concern for our families, and all of us want to make sure our families are well off. They're provided for, they're taken care of. And natural concern is, no one knows when death will come, and no one knows what will happen to our wives and children when we leave this world. Maybe, may Allah forbid, one of us passes away tomorrow, maybe it will be 30 years down the line. We might have children, we might have grandchildren, and it is our worry for them, will they be taken care of? So a general advice that Prophet Muhammad has given us. All things being equal, It's better that you leave your family, your heirs, your surviving relatives. It's better that you leave them financially independent. Right? That's probably the better translation. Aghniya, rich, right? Rich is not required, financially independent. So it's better that your surviving heirs and relatives be financially independent than being poor, dependent, begging from people. So this is a scene, right, that every father and every head of the household, this is a concern that every father should have. How can I make arrangements that when I leave this world, my children have a roof, my wife has a roof over her head, she has some money to live off of, etc. And what does that mean? It means from now we have to start saving and making some arrangements. Taking out some money from our monthly expenses, saving for a rainy day, and not just leaving the bank account, investing it somewhere. Putting it somewhere where inshallah you can earn some halal profit, and inshallah in that way the amount will grow. It doesn't mean you have to leave your family as billionaires. It doesn't mean that you have to leave millions of dollars for your family. But the objective is you make sure that they are alive. Likewise, there are other hadith that encourage this as well. Thuluthun arudduhu fiha. Thuluthun arudduhu fiha. Right? There's a very interesting hadith of the Prophet Muhammad. If anyone's interested, the sunnah and the ideal way to divide up one's income. Very unique advice and also a very high standard to follow. And the summary is, there was an individual that had this special irrigation and special assistance directly from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anyone who's a farmer or in the field of agriculture knows your lifeline is water. Right? People of California right now are in a drought, and we, with our own eyes, can see the need for water. So there's a special individual from the people before us, from the nation before us. He literally had water come down, especially from a cloud. Isqi hadiqata fulan. This cloud was specially for his garden. The water would come down from this cloud only for his gardeners. Ponder and reflect over this. This is his relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this is the special help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The cloud is exclusively dedicated to him. The cloud says, send down water for this person. The water comes down from the cloud, gathers in a canal or a small irrigation ditch. It goes directly to this person's garden. Right? Ponder and reflect over this. He must be doing something special. He must have a special relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A person sees this water coming down, he hears the name of this person being mentioned. Isqa khaliqata fulan. Mathalan Zayd. So he hears this name in this cloud. He's like, whoa, this is amazing. Let me follow the trail here. He comes to a garden, he sees this person taking the water and irrigating his garden. He says, if you don't mind me asking, what's your name? He says, my name is Fulan, the same name that he heard. He goes, whoa. You have this special cloud, you have this special cloud that's sending down water just for you. So the nearest effect, he says, if you don't mind me asking, what are you doing in this garden? I want to know your financial strategy. I want to know the secret to your success. I want to know how you spend your income. So this individual that owns this garden says, this is my methodology, this is my income strategy. Whatever crops I make from my garden, 1/3 I give to the charity. 1/3 I give in charity. So friends, very interesting. MashaAllah, Allah Ta'ala has blessed the Muslims of America. Allah Ta'ala has blessed the Muslims of this community, mashallah. It's something to think about. MashaAllah, zakat is there zakat is 2.5%. But zakat is the beginning point. In fact, my wife, she's a convert to Islam, she says, you Muslims, I don't understand you guys. You guys only give 2.5%. We as Catholics used to give 10%, bro. Christians to this day, look at the Mormons, look at their tithe system. They give 10%. 2.5% is the starting point. Inna fil mal haqqan siwa zakat. Respected friends, those who among us who Allah has blessed, we really need to think going beyond zakat. Look at the starvation in the world. Look at the pictures, respected friends. I don't even want to talk about it right now. But those among us who Allah has blessed, we have the power to remove poverty in the world. And if more Muslims were to step up and go to the 33% sunnah amount, you'll see poverty disappear from the world. But that's a topic for a separate day. So 1/3 of his wealth goes in charity. 1/3 he spends on his family. 1/3 this individual spends on his family needs. And 1/3 he puts back in his garden. Maintaining the garden. Upkeep of the garden. The expenses of the garden. So look at this principle. Right? That the mindset is, every month we don't spend 100% of our income on ourselves, our luxuries, our needs of life. Right? We're saving a percentage. And that amount that we're saving, what's the objective? Yes, putting money in a garden is a little bit different from putting money in the stock market. I understand that benefits. I recognize that. But what's the objective? If the garden is preserved and maintained, inshallah, it will continue to give income for the next 20 years, 30 years. Likewise, if we take out money from our income, put it in a good investment platform, inshallah, it will continue to give us profits. It will continue to provide for us in the next 20 or 30 years. Maybe we won't be able to work, maybe something will happen, right? This money will help us later on. Or as I mentioned with the hadith earlier, it will help our family later on. So this is just some brief guidance on the mindset behind investing in Islam. And the thought process and rationale for investing in Islam. Okay, so this is the second point of this. Of course, at the same time, it's also important that we adopt moderation in earning income as well. So the fact that we should be investing or saving up for a rainy day or trying to support our family doesn't mean we work 25 hours a day, guys. It doesn't mean that we give our heart, mind, and soul to cryptocurrency. It doesn't mean we reach a point we're checking the price of Bitcoin 50 times a day. That's unhealthy, friends. Working 25 hours a day is unhealthy. Overdoing it, right? Reaching a point where it is literally killing you. And earning an income, earning a livelihood, it's taking you away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's taking you away from the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's making you miss salat, etc., etc. There's a balance. Inshallah, hopefully, we adopt moderation and we have a balance. So this was the second point to discuss. The third point to discuss, a very important disclaimer. Many of you might have heard of GameStop in the last year. Many of you might have heard of Shiba. Many of you might have heard now about metaverse, etc., etc., NFTs. And what's happening is, during the last year or so, many Muslims are jumping on the bandwagon. They're looking for a quick buck. They're looking to make money very quickly. They don't understand the stock market. They don't understand investing strategy. They don't understand diversification. They don't understand risk management. But they want to make money. And what are they looking at? Fatwa here, fatwa there. This stock is halal. I'm going to go all in. I'm going to put $1 million in this one stock. This cryptocurrency is halal. I'm going to go all in, I'm going to put $1 million in this cryptocurrency. Why? Sheikh said it's halal. We as Muslims, we need to be smarter than Muslims. There are strategies to follow. There is a basic secular knowledge of investing that you need to know before you go in. Investing 101. Investment strategy. And unfortunately, because we as Muslims, it's about making a quick buck, we're bypassing the source system. So my encouragement to all of you, yes, technically this will not have to do with Islam. Are you required as a Muslim to take an investment strategy course before investing in the stock market? No. But as an imam, as a scholar, yes, I would advise you to do so. Adopt the means. Take precautions. Educate yourself. Know what you're doing. And my fear is, in our zeal and enthusiasm, in our desire to make a quick buck, right? We're not making smart decisions. Right? Simple thing, respected friends. Diversify. Right? You don't put all your eggs in one basket. Right? You try to balance things out. You might have some money in crypto, you might have some money in the stock market, you might have some gold money in precious metals, you might have some money in real estate. You balance things out. Right? You have an investment strategy. You have a long-term strategy. Because trends will come and go. They call it financial discipline. Meaning, in the short term, yes, the prices might go up and down. But you're a long-term investor, short-term prices don't affect you. Right? You're looking for long-term trends. And this is everything, these are simple things you'll learn in investment strategy. Investment 101. So please, respected friends, why am I mentioning this? Yes, I'm here sitting in the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is out of concern for you. Inshallah, that you don't lose all your money. You don't make these crazy all-in investment deals. You don't put in 100%, $1 million in one thing. Right? You have some strategy in mind. Right? Inshallah, in that way, inshallah, you make some good decisions. Inshallah, you make some halal money, inshallah. Right? My concern is for you. I want all of you to, inshallah, to make some halal money, inshallah. So that's why I strongly recommend that you educate yourselves. So I would say, number one, educate yourself from Islamic perspective. The laws of buying and selling, the fiqh of the stock market, etc. And likewise, along with that, equip yourself with the basic investment knowledge. There's something called risk, respect. Risk. Cryptocurrency, one issue is whether it's halal or not. The other is, are you willing to deal with the risk? The price going up from $60,000 in November to $38,000 or whatever it is today. You're in for a wild ride. There's a high risk involved. You might make a lot, but you might also lose a lot. There's also more safe investments, lower risk. And generally, how does that work, respected friends? The higher the return you want to get, the higher the risk is going to be. And the more safe investments, you're not going to make as much money. So what's the natural human instinct? I want to make a quick buck in a short period of time. I'm going to go for the high risk investments, respected friends. But you also might lose a lot of money too. So please, respected friends, educate yourselves. Educate yourselves. Right? Before you start putting money in, sit down with your local imam. Even Coinbase has all these cryptocurrency classes. Right? Educate yourselves. Right? Before my presentation on cryptocurrency that I did for the masjid in Toronto, I did reading and I did some research for about 14 hours. 14 hours. Right? I read up on it, I read a few books, I read about altcoins, I read a few fatwas, I went through all the fatwas. And alhamdulillah, after that, I decided to invest some money myself. Right? I put some money in myself. And inshallah, we'll discuss those cryptocurrencies, inshallah, when we get there. And I heard the word on the street is some of the imams in the DMV area will be asking for their salary in bitcoins. It's a joke, you guys. No, they're not. They're not, you guys. It's a joke. It's a joke, inshallah. It's a joke, inshallah. So, respected friends, that is my introduction to investing. And I'll also give you a few disclaimers as well, inshallah. So now let's go on to the stock market, inshallah. Let's go on to the stock market. So a book that I recommend that all of us read that will give you an introduction to investing as well and to Islamic finance. The name of the book is An Introduction to Islamic Finance by Mufti Usmani. Widely available. If you want a PDF, just get a PDF online. If you want to buy the book, inshallah, you can do that as well. I bought the book with me, but left it in my hotel room. I don't have it here right now. So read this book. It will educate you, inshallah. If you're having a difficult time understanding it, go to your local imam, discuss it with them. There's an entire section on the stock market. So inshallah, today I will be summarizing the requirements for investing in the stock according to Mufti Usmani. So today I will be summarizing that. Likewise, there's another set of standards in the Islamic finance world that ideally we should be aware of, known as AOFI. A-A-O-I-F-I. A-A-O-F-O-I-F-I. I think accounting and something, accountability, I forget exactly what it stands for. But this organization has set standards for Islamic finance throughout the world. Standards for investing in the stock market, any stock market. Standards for buying a house on installment sale. Standards for currencies. They don't have cryptocurrency yet. Hopefully, inshallah, in the next few years they'll work on that as well. And the connection is, Mufti Usmani is also one of the chairs or either on the board of AOFI. So you'll see that link between the requirements for investing in the stock market according to AOFI and the requirements for investing in the stock market according to Mufti Usmani. There's some overlap. So inshallah, today I'll be sharing with you 5 requirements, inshallah. So inshallah, we'll discuss those 5 requirements. Inshallah, what we can also do, we can have Q&A right after the stock market discussion, inshallah. Right, so that way, any questions about the stock market, we can address then. I'll also briefly discuss 401ks. I'm assuming a lot of us here have 401ks. We'll briefly discuss that as well. Then, once we're done with the Q&A, we'll go on to, inshallah, cryptocurrencies. In brief, inshallah. To be fair, I gave a 1-hour lecture just on cryptocurrencies about a month ago, about 2 months ago. So we'll summarize cryptocurrency and in brief NFTs, inshallah. NFTs, we won't go into as much detail, but we'll discuss that in brief, inshallah. And then if you have questions on cryptocurrency, you can discuss them after cryptocurrency. If you have questions on NFTs, we'll discuss that after NFTs, inshallah. So that's the plan, inshallah. Okay, so before we go forward, any questions on the introduction? Okay. Why it's so important to study the laws of buying and selling in Islam, and why the secular knowledge is also important, and why investment strategy is so important. So any questions on that, inshallah? Okay. So as I mentioned earlier, there are some requirements to determine if a stock meets the halal requirements or not. There's some criteria to look at to determine if a stock is halal or haram. As a disclaimer, we are currently living in a non-Muslim country. And as a result, the entire financial system is set up in a way that is un-Islamic. Almost every single company in America has some percentage of their income coming from unlawful sources. They're not run by Muslims. They don't have the same values as we do. They don't have the same teachings or financial teachings as we do. If any company in America has excess cash, what are they going to do with the excess cash? Put it in the bank and earn some interest. Right? We as Muslims, we can't do that. So it's not a matter of whether stock companies or multinational companies have some haram income or they don't. It's not a question of that. It's a question of how much the haram income is. Does you understand that? So pretty much every single company in America will have some percentage of unlawful income, of haram income. So keeping that in mind, the scholars came up with these criteria. Keeping in mind, we're living in an imperfect world, they came up with the following criteria. Number one, the primary business of that company must be halal and permissible. Primary business. So for example, we might have a company, in principle, they sell gloves. That's all they do. So it's cold outside, people need their gloves, especially in the East Coast. All they do is sell gloves. So the primary business, there's no issue. We have another company, Anheuser-Busch, Coors. Their primary business is to sell alcohol. So they're not going to meet that requirement. For example, casinos, you guys. Okay? Their primary business is unlawful, it's impermissible. They're making money from gambling revenue, etc., 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 etc. Music companies, alcohol companies, etc. And many banks will also fall under this as well. Their primary income comes from interest. Okay, so this is requirement number one. Requirement number two. Related to this, the unlawful income at the company should be less than 5%. Should be less than 5%. Right? This is the scholars have analyzed the situation, and they came up with these guidelines. It's not explicitly mentioned in the Quran and Hadith. This is a guideline that the scholars came up with. 5%. Right? So, for example, many supermarkets. What happens in supermarkets, you guys? Supermarkets might have a section of alcohol, they might have some pork, but then they have many other halal items there as well. Right? So we'll use this criteria, 5% is the cutoff. Okay, is that clear up to there, you guys? Okay. Third requirement has to do with voicing one's disapproval. And as Muslims, you could say this is what is known as nahi al-munkar, right? That when we're able to do so, we voice our disapproval with something that's being done that's unlawful. So keep in mind, what's the principle of the stock market and of companies that issue stock? Technically, you own a share of that company. And yes, one share out of 500,000 shares, it's not that much. But let's say you own 100,000 shares. For argument's sake, you own 100,000 shares of that company. Yes, if you speak up at the annual general meeting, yes, if you voice your displeasure, right, the company might think about that as well. Also, what if the 10 million Muslims in America invest money in that company, and they say, we do not agree with you selling alcohol? For example, Tesla recently started selling alcohol. Let's look it up. Right? Tesla recently started selling alcohol. Even though Tesla is supposed to be a car, right? And it's supposed to be an electric car, they recently added alcohol. For example, I'm just giving you an example. So the third requirement would be, as a Muslim, you send an email or you attend an annual general meeting, and if possible, you speak up and you voice your displeasure. Elon Musk, I disagree with you adding tequila or whatever rum, and I disagree with you adding alcohol to this company, for example. Or to XYZ company, as a Muslim investor, you are putting money in interest, and I disagree with this. And I'm voicing my disapproval. If you don't want to listen to me, that's fine. I've told you I disapprove of this. So there's a reason behind this. It's not just a waste of time. It's supposed to bring up about change in the community. Nahi al-munkar. The objective is to bring about a change. And if enough people do this, you'll see companies changing one day, inshallah. So this is the third requirement. You can send an email if you want. You can, if you can't attend the annual general meeting, send an email to their feedback or to the customer service. So this is number 3. The 4th requirement is also connected to that haram income. So let's say, for argument's sake, XYZ company, their haram income is 2%. The rest, mashallah, 98% is halal. 2% comes from unlawful sources. So looking at the imperfect situation, the experts in Islamic finance advise Muslims to purify their wealth. Right? This concept of purification. So how does it work? So I know roughly XYZ company, their haram income is 2%. And for example, I get an annual dividend. Right? I'm getting a payout from the company, they give me a dividend, whatever, it might be $50, etc. So what's 2% of $50? $1. So when I receive that dividend, I take that $1 and give it in charity, give it to the poor. So what's the objective here? That income which I'm earning from the stock, yes, the majority of the income of this company is halal. But there is a percentage coming from unlawful sources. To counterbalance that, to provide an antidote if you want, or to purify your wealth, you're taking a percentage from your dividend and giving it in charity. And it should be the same percentage of 2%. Give 2% of your dividend in charity. Likewise, that's if you're holding on to a stock for a long period of time. You will also be earning money, for example, from capital gains, from selling the stock. So let's say, again, the haram income of that company was 2%. And let's say the value of the stock is $100. And mashallah, you sold that stock, and mashallah, you bought the stock, let's say at whatever at $50, and you sold the stock at $100. Right? So mashallah, you made $50. Does you understand that? Capital gains. You bought the stock at 50, you sold the stock at 100, so again you made $50. Right? That's your profit. But as we know, that stock's, a percentage of that company's income was haram. So in the $50 that you made, again give 2% in charity. So what would that be again? $1. Is that clear? So this would be purification of your wealth. And of course, we're acknowledging that this system isn't perfect. We're acknowledging that these stock companies have some haram income. We're trying to balance things out or rectify the situation. So this is requirement number 4. Is that clear to everyone, you guys? So one is the dividend, one is the capital gains. In other words, any money that we're making from the stock, we are giving a percentage in charity to purify our income. Is that clear, guys? 5th requirement. So this has to do with the assets of the company. And there are 2 types of assets of a company: liquid assets and illiquid assets. So what are liquid assets? Liquid assets would mean cash, bank accounts, cryptocurrencies, etc. And these would be liquid assets, right? They're convertible to cash, right? They're in cash form. Then you have another category known as illiquid assets. So illiquid assets would be factories, equipment, property, merchandise, etc. Right? These things they're in physical form, right? And right, you have to sell them to cash out. Right? So they're illiquid. Right? That as they stand, they don't have cash value. In order to get cash, you have to sell them. Right? So you have, as I said, a company will have their income statement and they'll have their their balance sheet, which will list their assets. So this requirement has to do with the ratio of liquid assets and illiquid assets. So the company's assets will add up to 100%, and there'll be a ratio adding up to 100% of liquid versus illiquid. Is that clear? So this information will be gained from the income statement of the company and the financials of the company. So the ratio, the cutoff will be 33%. The illiquid assets need to be above 33%. The illiquid assets of the company have to be above at least 33% and above. In other words, 1/3. So this is a requirement why some companies exist only within paper. They don't have any liquid assets. They don't have a building, they don't have any merchandise, it's just a pie in the sky idea. So to avoid that, this requirement of illiquid assets. And they should own something, they should own some property or some factories or some equipment or machinery or something. So is that clear, guys? So again, the illiquid assets in physical form must be at least 33% from 100%. They must be at least 33% or above. Okay, is that clear, guys? So these are the 5 requirements for investing in the stock market. Now you may ask, Sheikh, how do you apply these 5 requirements? And how do we determine if the stock is halal or haram? Just make it easy for us. Just give us a yes or no answer. So that's what the Muslim community needs to work on. And there are a few options out there. There's a few apps. There's Islamic City. There's Zoya. There's a few options out there. And there's also some more thorough filters that are done manually. Right? So what the app does, uses the algorithm. Right? Kind of, you plug in the numbers, there's an algorithm that gives you a final answer. There's other services which I've seen as well. They manually check every single stock. In fact, they give an individual fatwa on every single stock. Usmani and Sons, Mufti Usmani's family, right? They go through and vet every single stock individually. Right? So there are different systems out there. And at the same time, if a person figures out how the process works, you can do the research yourself. So unfortunately, I don't have a solid answer for the 6,000 stocks in the stock market. Maybe some of the youth can take on this project. Maybe some of the ulama can take on this project as well. Right? There are some apps as well. How reliable are those apps? I don't know. But inshallah, this would be a great service to the community. And the other issue is sometimes the information changes. So you need to update your research. In 1 year, Tesla adds on alcohol, right? That's going to change things. Hypothetical. This will change things. So you need to remain up to date and to check those numbers as well. Okay, so any questions about the stock market?
If illiquid assets need to be 33%, means there are a lot of companies who are Islamically good companies and they don't have liquid assets of 33%.
True. So brother, really, it's there as a projection because many of those companies, there's a lot of risk involved as well. Right. So the objective is the company should have existence. Right? It should be something which is tangible. Right? So this is the argument. Otherwise, when you're buying a share, all you're really trading is a liquid asset. You're trading money for money. Right? You're not buying an entity. You're buying money. Because that means if the liquid assets are more than 66.6 or more than 33%, it means the majority of that company is liquid. It means, in fact, when you're buying your share, you're buying something liquid. You're not buying something that exists physically. That's a thought process. So again, it's there to protect the investor. It's there to protect the investor. Any more questions, guys?
Is there any requirement for debt to income ratio of the company?
Yes, brother. So I've seen that as well. When I looked the last time I looked at the AOP standards, I didn't see that. But I've seen that in other places. So that's an excellent question. Inshallah, it's worth looking that up again. Yeah. So I recall seeing it before. When I wrote things down for my presentation, I didn't see it. So I think some people require it, perhaps some people don't. That's why they didn't do it. But inshallah, more research is needed on that, inshallah. Okay, brother. So is that, we cover the stock market, inshallah, is that clear, inshallah? Okay. So, next let's move on briefly to 401ks. I'm sure most of us sitting here might have 401ks, or we know someone who has a 401k. So in simple terms, whatever criteria we establish for the stock market is going to apply to 401ks. How? A 401k is going to be a portfolio of stocks, individual stocks. So in our earlier discussion, we were looking at one stock at a time. With the 401k, we're going to be looking at 40 stocks together. Or even more. 40 is just a number, guys. 40 is a number. It could be 50, it could be even more stocks. So the basic principle for the 401k will be as follows. The ruling on that 401k being halal will be dependent on the individual stocks that make up that portfolio. If the stocks making up that portfolio are all halal, again the 401k will also be 100% halal. If the stocks making up that 401k, some of them are haram, then that percentage of the portfolio will be haram. So another question comes up. As Muslim employees at these non-Muslim companies, what options do we have as employees working there? In many cases, we have no say at all in the 401k option. Take it or leave it. Put your money in, get the employee match, or don't invest, that's it. Yet at the same time, in places where there are a good number of Muslims working there, sometimes Muslim employers are given the option of choosing their own investments through brokerage link, through Merrill Lynch, I believe. Right? So it depends on your situation. And inshallah, in the long term, we as Muslims should work towards our own options. Alhamdulillah, about 8 months ago, I had a meeting with the hospital in Central California. Zoom meeting. I didn't have to drive there. And there were about 12 Muslim doctors that were working there. And alhamdulillah, we had a meeting before the actual meeting with the hospital. We discussed the situation. And alhamdulillah, all 12 doctors were on board. And we presented one united voice to the management of the hospital. They couldn't understand why we wanted brokerage link, why we wanted to opt out. Alhamdulillah, we explained it to them. I also spoke up and kind of explained the Islamic perspective. And alhamdulillah, after some work, the hospital opened things up to themselves. You're free to invest in whatever you want. You make the choice. Inshallah, hopefully, we can replicate that throughout the country. So that's a long-term goal. Because that makes it easier. You can ensure that your 401k is 100%. You choose the stocks. Now, in the meantime, most of us will have to deal with the situation where, in order to invest in the 401k, we're going to have some haram stocks. Right? Every single 401k set portfolio will have financial stocks, or they'll have bonds, or they have some haram stocks. Is that clear, guys? So in that situation, we're going to have two options. Right? We have two options. One is the easy option with low pay, and one is the harder option with higher pay. And I'll explain it to you. So the hard option will be as follows. You might have 50 stocks in your 401k. You track and you do research on all 50 stocks. Then you find out how much money you have in each stock. Then you find out how much profit you're making on each stock or loss. Then you calculate the profit from the halal stocks. Then you calculate the profit from the haram stocks. You give the profit from the haram stocks in charity, and you keep the halal profits. But as they say, easier said than done. There's going to be a lot of calculations there. There's going to be a lot of research there. It's not going to be easy. Is that clear, guys? Does that make sense? Right, so it's going to require some calculations, crunching some numbers. And yes, if you started now, and your 401k has been there for 5 years, it's going to be much more difficult. Okay, option number 2. option number 2 would be you keep your principal amount that you put in the 401k, you keep the employer match, and the rest you give in charity. Just to make things easy, so you don't have to deal with the headache, you give the entire amount in charity. Now, I'm not saying you're required to do so, but for simplicity purposes, that's also options. Or something to consider. At the very least, it's something to consider. So that way you know your principal amount is 100% halal. The employer match, you've taken advantage of the employer match, right? You could double your money, whatever it is. And the rest, you kind of just take the easy way out, and you just give the entire amount in charity. That's also one option. And as I said, in long term, if we can work towards a solution, I do know some employers that allow their Muslim employees to put money in a Muslim mutual fund. Islamic mutual fund, like Amana, like Azad, etc., etc. That also could be one solution. Okay. So any questions regarding 401ks?
Yeah, one question.
Yes, please.
When you are saying that my contribution on my salary and my employer contribution, suppose if I get $10,000 and 10,000 from my employer, 20,000. So, for example, I am.
Hello. Yeah, Assalamu alaikum. For example, I am making $24,000. That means 10,000 is mine, 10,000 is the employer's, 4,000 is I have made the gains. And when you are saying that give it to the charity, means you are suspecting that it is coming from the interest. Is there any other reason?
So for the exactly. So let me make this very clear. From a technical point of view, the profits which you have earned from your 401k, assuming that there's profits in shop, the profits that you've earned are not 100% haram. And I'm not saying that they're 100% haram. In actuality, right, the profits that you're earning from your 401k, because there's some haram stocks and halal stocks, yes, technically, there's going to be a percentage, known percentage that is halal, there's going to be a known amount that's haram. That's the reality. I'm not saying all profits from your 401ks are haram. That's not what I'm trying to say. But what I'm saying is it's very difficult to calculate that. And it means you have to go through all 50 stocks. And it means you also have to track things every year. How much profit did I make every year? And it means if your portfolio changes, you have to now recalculate. So it is a lot of work. If you want to do that, that's also fine. Right?
That means you are not suspecting it.
No, I'm not. Not at all. So you could say this is more precaution. Ihtiyat, what we refer to as ihtiyat. And it's also just taking the easy way out. Right? I know 100% of my principal amount, there's no issue with that. I know the employer's amount, employer contribution that's there. And I'm not sure, I don't have the time to deal with the rest. So let me just give it all in charity. You're not required to do so. Right? You're not required to do so. It's one option, that's all. Yes, sir.
Can you pay up your zakat with that charity?
So, interesting question. Very interesting question. So the issue, it's a little bit tricky because the technical amount which is haram, it is wajib to give that to the poor. And that will not count for your zakat. And the remaining halal amount, you do own that. The problem is the total from the total profit that you earn is 50% halal, is 50% haram, is 80% halal, 20% haram. So if you know for a fact, for example, I know I have at least 20% profit. So yeah, that's your halal money, you can give it zakat. But the problem really is the estimating, the problem is really identifying your own halal income. You have a percentage of halal income there. That's yours, that's your right. But the real challenge is going to be identifying that. And hopefully, inshallah, we can come with a system that makes it easy for all of us, inshallah. Hopefully, inshallah, we have a lot of youngsters here, we have a lot of energy, we have, inshallah, a lot of motivation. Inshallah, hopefully we can, in fact, I'll say this here until we're in the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If someone, in fact, I've seen already there's a need for an advisor that would do something like this for someone. As of now in America, there isn't one service out there to help people with 401ks. So this would be a halal income. It would also be a service to the ummah as well. So what had happened, those same doctors that were at that central that hospital in Central Masjid, they said, we have these massive 401k accounts. We didn't know, and for a while we didn't know they were taking out money out for us. My 401k is worth 200,000, for example. And now please help us out and tell us what to do. We're like, that's going to take a lot of time. They're like, we're willing to pay. We're willing to hire you for your services. We said, that's not our field. That's beyond the scope of our research. So that's a field, that's a need. Maybe someone hears this, maybe someone is motivated. That's an important service to provide the ummah. And ultimately, there's that person's halal money is in there. That person's halal money is somewhere in there. Okay. Any more questions, inshallah? Okay. Can we go on to cryptocurrency, inshallah? Okay. So the last two topics will be cryptocurrency and also NFTs. And I can go on in a lot of detail about each one, but to make things easy for us, I'm going to give reference to 2 research papers. Most of my research on Bitcoin in particular and NFTs will come from these 2 research papers. And I can't answer all your questions. There's about 1,500 cryptocurrencies. And there's some of them are halal, some of them also are based on interest. Right? They're also based on interest. So more research needs to be done. Most of the fatwas on cryptocurrency are based on Bitcoin. Right? And also obviously, Bitcoin is also the most famous cryptocurrency as well. And it's also the most valuable one as well, mashallah. Until recently. So let's discuss cryptocurrency in brief. If you type in on Google, take a look at that 50-page research paper and master's thesis written by Mufti bin Adam. Right? He spent 2 years researching Bitcoin. And I personally consider him the world expert. And mashallah, I think he knows many of the ulama from DMV. So just as a side point, mashallah, many of our ulama from the DMV and some of the ulama here today, they did their ifta under one of the greatest muftis of the world, Mufti bin Adam. And Mufti bin Adam is also a student of the same school, mashallah. So I'm not sure if anyone was studied together at the same time, but I'm sure many of the ulama here have heard of Mufti bin Adam of the UK. Right? So go on Google, Amana Consultancy, Faraz bin Adam, Bitcoin. Or just type in Faraz bin Adam, Bitcoin. Inshallah, it should be the first. It should be the first search item that shows up. Or first result that shows up. Inshallah, it shouldn't be that difficult. Amana Consultancy, Bitcoin. Just do that as well. So it's an excellent research paper. It should answer all your issues, inshallah. And I shouldn't have to go into any more detail at all, inshallah. If you read the research paper, you're done, inshallah. It's all there. So I can summarize it in brief. And to be fair, some of the muftis in the world right now have a difference of opinion regarding Bitcoin. And to be fair, if there's a specific mufti that you follow, then follow their fatwa on Bitcoin as well. At the same time, the ruling on Bitcoin also depends on the country you live in. For example, in Pakistan and India, Bitcoin is banned. It's illegal. So obviously the fatwa on Bitcoin will also be impacted by the fact that it's illegal in that country. The Indonesian ulama recently banned Bitcoin as well. Right? So there's also one thing to look at. And also, one of the keys to giving a fatwa on Bitcoin is to properly understand how it works, and the blockchain, and the digital aspect of it. So, for that reason, you'll see a lot of misunderstandings regarding Bitcoin, and many fatwas, unfortunately, are also based on the misunderstandings. Right? Part of my presentation for the masjid in Toronto, I went through all the fatwas on Bitcoin. I tried to go through all of them, the Urdu ones, the Arabic ones, the English ones. I tried to go through them. And unfortunately, many of them were based on unreliable reasons or faulty reasoning. Bitcoin is a conspiracy theory and is a deception. It doesn't exist. It's all fake. But friends, right, try to understand it. Right? You have to go beyond that. Right? People, you can walk in and cash out your Bitcoin and you'll get a good amount of money. Guys. It does exist. Right? To say it's a complete conspiracy theory is problematic. Bitcoin is speculative, therefore it's haram. Speculation is a secondary issue. Right? Look, you guys, there was speculation when it came to masks and when it came to what's it called? What do we put on before we come to masjid? Sanitizer. Sorry. Right? People were selling sanitizers for $50, $100. Look at COVID tests right now. Right? On Facebook ads and Facebook shopping and something called Nextdoor, people are selling those COVID tests right now for $50. Does speculation make something haram? No. If the COVID test itself is halal, right, it doesn't involve any haram things, how can you say speculation makes something haram? Speculation is an external factor. It's not an internal factor. And so on. Right? So there's a lot of misunderstanding when it comes to Bitcoin. And that's why I place my trust in this research paper written by Mufti, who spent 2 years researching Bitcoin. Because I'm nothing. I spent 10 hours, that's nothing. This individual, may Allah reward him, he spent 2 years researching Bitcoin. And he's written a thorough research paper. All the common objections people have on Bitcoin, he's answered. At the same time, if I'm quoting his research, then I have to quote the entire fatwa. Right? Amanatan, to absolve myself of my responsibility. Mufti Firaz bin Adam writes, there are two separate issues to look at when it comes to Bitcoin. Or let's say, there's two separate aspects to consider when it comes to Bitcoin. Number one is Bitcoin a valid form of wealth? Is Bitcoin a valid investment? Is it something that has value in Islam? And the second is Bitcoin a valid form of currency and a valid form of exchange in Islamic law? So keep in mind, these can be two different things. So let me just give an example. This bottle of water that I have in front of me, does this have a value or not? Yes. Is it something that people will buy? Yes. They might not pay a lot, but yes, they'll pay 25 cents, they'll pay $1 for this. But is this plastic bottle recognized as a currency which I can use to buy and sell things in stores in America right now? Can I walk into Giant and say, I want to buy that candy, I'm going to pay in bottled waters? Does everyone understand the difference? So my point right now is to illustrate the difference. This bottled water is a valid form of wealth in Islam. Right? It's here in its bottle. It has value. It's people realize the value of it. Right? It's a valid form of wealth, but it's not a valid currency. Right? It's not a valid currency. And one of the reasons is it's not accepted by the central bank. Right? The U.S. government does not recognize it. So there's two separate fatwas on Bitcoin. Is Bitcoin a valid form of wealth? Number two, is Bitcoin a valid form of currency? Mufti Firaz bin Adam explains. According to his research and a number of proofs that he's presented, Bitcoin is a valid form of wealth. That's why when you look it up, it has a price tag of $40,000, whatever it is. People have given value to it. Now, a common objection is as follows. Well, it's not tangible. I can't see it. Therefore, it doesn't exist. Because it doesn't have a tangible form, or it's not tangible, it doesn't have a physical existence, therefore it should be haram. With all the respect to friends, right? There's many things which we buy and sell today, which are digital. For example, on Gmail, I might go and buy 50 extra gigabytes, you guys. Where's that 50 gigabytes, you guys? Can I see it? Can I touch it? Can I feel it? Where is it? Why don't we say that's haram as well? Why don't we give a fatwa and say, buying all storage on your phone or on Gmail, that's all haram. It doesn't exist. So, my point is, there are many legal precedents. Right? And also if you look at Islamic fiqh, there are also many examples of this as well. Right? Where you could buy something, you can buy a right. Right? You can buy a right to something. Right? You can also buy a right to enter into a place, for example. Entry fees, tickets, etc. There's also domain names in this. All these iftas, right? They have a website online. They pay for that domain name. Does the domain name exist, you guys? They're paying for web hosting. Where's the web hosting? I don't see it. Right? So my point is, in our day-to-day practice, there are many other digital assets that we see on a daily basis and we interact with. And we buy without thinking, giving it a second thought, you guys. So, this is from the perspective, can Bitcoin be an asset? Can it be a form of wealth? Can it be a valid investment? So Mufti Faraz's research, which I'm sharing with you, yes, Bitcoin is a valid form of wealth. It's recognized in Islamic law. You can purchase it as an investment. At the same time, he writes that as of yet, more research needs to be done on whether Bitcoin is a valid form of currency. And the Muftis need to discuss this further because it also depends on the central bank. It also depends on the country you live in. Because it's all moved to El Salvador. So El Salvador, Bitcoin is officially recognized as a currency by the central bank. And you can look up online as well. Of course, in other countries, as I mentioned, Malaysia, as I mentioned, Indonesia, Pakistan, India, there are countries that do not allow Bitcoin as well, at all. So the currency part is different, but most people that invest in Bitcoin, they're doing so as an investment. They're going to hold on to it. They're not going to use it to go to the store and buy and sell things using that Bitcoin generally. Right? So just remember that difference. This is a summary of the Mufti Faraz bin Adam's research. It's the summary. As I said, I've looked into the research. After those 10 hours that I spent, I said, I'm going to go out with him. I'm going to get involved in it directly, so I can say that I also know how it works. I went out, I've also purchased some Bitcoin as well. So just as a follow-up, the majority of the research has only been done on Bitcoin. And the remaining 1,400 cryptocurrencies, research still needs to be done. In summary, if they follow the same principles as Bitcoin, they should also be halal. So there is a fatwa on Ethereum as well. There's a research paper, about 40 pages, well done, specifically on Ethereum. So those two, so I went out and I bought some Ethereum as well, based on that. Now, what about the altcoins? At the same time, you guys also need to understand investment strategy. Bitcoin and Ethereum are both well established. They have a solid foundation. Investors recognize them. They relatively, right, they're low risk. Many of those altcoins pump and dump, Ponzi schemes, and they're like penny stocks, you guys. Penny stocks. So, from two aspects, one is from a halal haram point of view, one is just from a risk point of view. The altcoins, you guys, the altcoins are a whole different ballgame. You could read up on this. The altcoins are a whole different ballgame. The standard and the reliability of Bitcoin and Ethereum is at one level. Altcoins are completely at a different level. It's a completely different level. Just like normal stocks and penny stocks. Right? So, exercise caution. Inshallah, hopefully someone can do research on all these altcoins. I'm sure some of you guys want to know about Shibu, you guys want to know Litecoin, you guys want to know about some of these altcoins as well. So inshallah, hopefully people can do some research papers on each one and do some individual research on each one. Okay, so that's the summary, you guys, of crypto. Any specific questions on crypto?
One question on
technical question on the cryptocurrency. So all the algorithms of cryptocurrency are following blockchain concepts. Question is clear, right?
Yes, but I think most of them are.
Most of them? Yeah, that is a good sign.
So, but I'm not a cryptocurrency expert. My understanding is most of the crypto means that they're using the same blockchain technology.
See, the reason I am asking that question is blockchain will need the confirmation from both the ends. that makes the transaction halal. If one is conflicting, that will fail the transaction.
Yes, brother. Okay. Yes. Okay, but any questions, inshallah? Any more questions? So, inshallah, I won't go into as much detail, but the research papers there. So the research papers available on the internet. You can download it, you can print it. I highly recommend, if you're going to be interested in cryptocurrency, read that research paper, inshallah. So it should clear all your doubts, inshallah. So lastly, NFTs. NFTs. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. The same Mufti, may Allah reward him, he wrote a research paper on NFTs, 50 pages. And he wrote it last March, may Allah reward him, subhanAllah. I only learned what NFTs were like a week ago. I'm like, whoa, NFTs, let me read up on this. And when I type in Google, this research paper showed up. And I look at the date on the research paper, may Allah reward him, was about a year ago. Right? This is his farsightedness, mashallah, his staying ahead of the game, mashallah. So anyone who's interested in NFTs, read this 50-page research paper. Just go, NFT fatwa. Number 1 on the Google results. NFT fatwa. 50 pages. All the guidelines are there, what to look at when you're going to NFT. In simple terms, inshallah, we'll end shortly. NFT stands for non-fungible token. Fungible and non-fungible refers to whether something can be replicated or not, or whether something is unique or not. So fungible means, let's say a brother comes up and says, Mufti Sahib, this is my bottled water. You drank it all. You need to give me a replacement. Like, you owe me a new bottle of water. So what can I do? I can go to the store, buy another one, and say, here, okay, you lost your bottle of water. I drank it all. Here's another one. Non-fungible means you can't replace it. So, for example, LeBron James block of Andre Iguodala in Game 7, Warriors versus Cavs. That specific moment of LeBron going up and blocking that shot, that's unique, right? That's a unique moment in time. Only one exists. So you can't replace that. That is unique. Like our fingerprint, it is unique. It is one of a kind. It can't be replaced. Once you lose that NFT, it's gone. For example. And NFTs include art, they include tickets, they include sports memorabilia, etc., etc. And you guys can read up on it more. Mufti Faraz bin Adam has given some guidelines. Right? And the guidelines include the NFT should not involve a picture or a representation of a living object. The NFT should have some objective. It shouldn't be just a useless thing. Recently there was some controversy. There was an NFT of bottling the fart of a famous celebrity. You guys can read up on it. They took a famous celebrity woman, they took her fart, they locked it up in a jar, and now they're trying to sell it as an NFT. So guys, that's pointless. It's a waste. It's useless. Why would someone spend money on this? So you guys, that's a summary of NFTs. Mufti Faraz bin Adam has gone in much more detail. So you guys, that's inshallah the end. That's cryptocurrency, stock market, 401ks, and NFTs. So any follow-up questions? Any follow-up questions? Yes, brother.
If the government, right, they back up the currency, that's the guarantee. So whoever has $1, he will be given a $1, by anyone. But Bitcoin or any cryptocurrencies, they are not being backed by any government. So there is no guarantee. Today people are accepting it as a mode of investment. Tomorrow if they decline, that's what we will do with Bitcoin.
So it's a valid point. And this is where again that the argument comes in. The role of the muftis is to identify what's halal and haram. Right? What is permissible, what is not permissible. Now, Mufti Faraz, to be fair, I just can't mention everything in one place. Mufti Faraz bin Adam makes that point as well. Cryptocurrencies have no tangible existence. They don't increase the goodness in this world. They're not increasing productivity. It's not like you're taking out and mining platinum and bringing out platinum and now providing more goods for the world. It's a virtual thing. And right, there are some negative aspects involved. Some people use cryptocurrency for drug dealing. In the beginning, right, there's a whole discussion. Cryptocurrency was easy to use for drug dealers because you can track the money. Since then, they've regulated things. But the point is, beyond the halal aspect, there's some negativities involved with cryptocurrencies. There's some negativities and risks. And when considering an investment, we need to look at the bigger picture as well. And to be fair, there is a difference. There's a difference between official currency versus being recognized. As of now, there are Bitcoin ATMs, and yes, some stores will accept it as well. But it's not backed by the government like the dollars. There's a difference. There's a difference in the level. Perhaps in the future this might change, and like I said, let's move to El Salvador. But as of now, many of these countries, right, there's cryptocurrency and Bitcoin is not as recognized as the dollar bill or the normal currency of the company, or normal currency of the country. And these are things to consider and to look at. Okay. Any more questions, inshallah?
Can we ask a question about home financing if we have time?
So, you can, inshallah, but let's do this. You guys have been very attentive listeners, mashallah, you guys have stuck throughout the lecture. So inshallah, just out of courtesy to everyone, I want to thank all of you for coming. And mashallah, thank you all for your interest in this topic. For me, it's a very fascinating topic. Alhamdulillah, to share this information with you and to have your attention for this period of time, mashallah, for me, it's very fulfilling. So inshallah, we'll end the lecture program. If anyone has any follow-up questions, they can ask. But for the time, yeah.
One quick is the options fall in the same like stocks?
Yes. So brother, excellent question. I didn't answer that. According to AOFI standards, and also according to what Mufti has written, all options are haram. Because they involved an unknown element. So the general principle is, we as Muslims, when we buy something, we should know what we're paying for, and the other person should know what they're selling to us. And an option strongly resembles gambling. Right? You don't know, okay, when will the option kick in? You have the right to use that option. You might use it now, you might use it later. There's an element of, number one, uncertainty. Number two, there's also an element of gambling as well. So that's why the fatwa given by Mufti Usmani, options are not permissible. Futures are options are not permissible. Okay. So inshallah, we'll end the lecture program. Inshallah with a short dua. Inshallah then and any follow-up questions inshallah you can ask. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah bil alameen. Salatu wassalamu ala nabiyil kareem. لا إله إلا سبحانك إني كنت من الظالمين. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم اكفنا بحلالك عن حرامك واغننا بفضلك عمن سواك. اللهم نسأل الهدى والتقوى والعفو والغنى. ربنا تقبل منا إنك السميع العليم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. جزاكم الله خير.